All right, raise your hand if when you are watching a TV show or a movie and a thought comes through your head about what you're watching and you want to turn and tell the person next to you about that thought. Okay, most of you do. What we're going to learn about today is when you have those thoughts about TV shows, you actually have those same thoughts about books. So when you want to turn and talk to somebody next to you about what you're watching, you can also talk back to your book and turn and talk to your book about what you're reading, okay? So what that looks like is I've picked our book, Peter Pan, that we've already started, and I'm going to read over this page, and I'm going to show you how we talk back to a book, just like you would want to when you want to turn and talk to somebody next to you and talk about what you're watching or what you're reading, okay? Since all three children belonged to the same family, their dreams of the Neverland were a lot alike. Peter Pan appeared in all of them, but seemed especially real to Wendy. Even Mrs. Darling, thinking back to her childhood, could remember a character called Peter Pan, who was believed to live in fairyland. Surely Peter Pan is all grown up by now, Mrs. Darling joked with her daughter. No, Mommy, he will never grow up. In fact, he is just about my size, Wendy replied. Okay, I'm going to pause here, and this is where I'm going to look over at our chart, and I've written a few response prompts, and I'm going to talk back to my book. And here's how I'm going to do that. When I just read that part about Peter not growing up, it reminded me of when I was a child, when I was your age, and I didn't want to grow up either. But I'm not Peter Pan, so I ended up growing up, right? So I'm going to look at my list of responses here, and I'm going to go to this one. And it says, this reminds me of. So I have this piece of paper here on my clipboard, and it says, my ideas about, and I wrote the title of the story that we're reading right here, Peter Pan. And I have 4 boxes with sticky notes in them, okay? These sticky notes are like the reference that I made earlier. When you turn and talk to a friend, you're actually going to turn and talk to your sticky note about your book, okay? So, on my sticky note, I'm going to write about this one. This reminds me of. Okay, so you can all see right here. And this is where I'm going to start reflecting or talking about what I just read. Because I had such a strong memory when I read that part of when I was a child, that's what I'm going to write about. This reminds me of when I was young, I also didn't want to grow up. And then I'm going to put what I did with a smiley face. Okay? Now down here, it wants to know what page, okay, I got this reflection from. So I'm going to look at my book, and we're on page 10 in Peter Pan. That way, I know where in my book I had this thought. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and keep going. Now there's some other sentence prompts on here. I can't believe. If you read something and it makes you have a thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe that just happened. You can pick up your paper, your talking back paper, and you can reflect on what you can't believe, okay? I like this part because maybe there's a part that you go, ooh, that was really cool that just happened. And you want to, just like you would turn to your neighbor and talk to them about, guess what just happened in my book? Instead of turning to your neighbor, you would write it down, okay? The other ones I wrote down is, I think blank will happen next because. What is it called when I'm thinking ahead in the story? Maybe before I turn the page, I'm thinking something is going to happen. What am I making? It starts with a P. What am I making? Lesson? A prediction. So this sentence prompt is you're making a prediction. I think blank will happen next because, and you're putting why you think that's going to happen next. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going in my story, or in our story. And I might come across another one of these reflection prompts. Her father poo-pooed the whole idea of Peter Pan. Nana probably put the whole idea into the children's heads, he told his wife. Dogs have such ideas. Don't worry about Wendy. She'll forget about Peter Pan soon enough. But Peter Pan would not let them forget him. In fact, he appeared at the Darlings' house that very night. Okay, I think this is a perfect spot to go with a prediction. I'm going to talk back on my sticky note about what I think is going to happen next, because it just told me Peter Pan is about to show up at his house. So on my next sticky note right here, I think Peter Pan, what do I think Peter Pan will do next? What do you guys think he's going to do when he's there? Samira? Okay, well, so we know he's actually going to show up at his house because it just said that he appeared at the Darlings' house that very night. But what do we predict he's going to do there? What do you predict, Anaya?
I predict that he is going to show up at their house and start talking to them. But before he shows up at his house, their house, that they see him, he probably crashed into them.
Okay, I think Peter Pan will crash into the window before he gets inside. Now, there's because. So I had to think of why do you think that he's going to crash into the window? What about Peter Pan's personality makes you think that he's just going to go crash right in there? Why do you think he might do that?
Because he's flying fast and his personality is very funny.
Ooh, that's a very good answer as to why. Because he is a fast flyer and he has a funny personality. Again, I have my page number here, okay? And I'm going to look in my book. I was still on page 10 when I had that thought, so I just put page 10 again. Now, I'm going to pause there for a second. When you talk back to your book, you don't have to talk back to every page. I just want to make that part clear, okay? But if you have a really big thought go through your head that you want to write down because you want to remember what you were thinking, okay, on that page, that's when this comes in handy. You're reflecting on it. Now, I'm going to give each one of you this same page and sticky notes for you to practice, but I'm also going to give you, I wrote the questions, a few of them. I picked just a few out that I wanted us to start with, but there's more on here, okay, that you can use to help you talk back to your book as you're reading your story. So for example, you could have a I'm wondering thought. I'm wondering how she did that. Or I'm wondering, how does Peter Pan fly? I'm wondering is great because as you're reading and you're thinking of questions in your head as you're going along, you can be writing those down and talking back to your book with that one. I am noticing that Mrs. Darling is starting to remember Peter Pan a little bit. And I'm predicting that maybe later in the story, she might completely remember him. Or maybe she'll go back to Neverland. We don't know yet, so those are predictions. Those are ways that I can talk back to my story. Okay? So I'm going to send you with your book and your talking back paper, so that in the book of your choice, you can write on your sticky notes. Does everybody understand? Okay. We're going to go around, yes. Oh, you want to help hand out? Yes, we're going to go ahead and go around the room with your books after you have your papers, okay? You can go ahead and stop.